Hello, I'm Roger Bisbee and this is Ask Skill Builder. This is where I try and help you solve the problems which are bugging you. We've got a question here from Ben Harvey. Now, Ben really wanted Robin's input on this, but Robin's away at the moment, so I'm going to try and answer this. I think Robin has actually emailed him anyway, so what he's doing is he's building a bit of a lean-to, a bit of a porch here, and he's got a wall plate that he's put along the wall, bolted that in. That looks all pretty good. And he said because it's a very shallow pitch, it's only 15 degrees, he's ended up with a blind bird's mouth. In other words, it's not really a bird's mouth at all. He's just finished up with what would be a seat cut on the end of the rafter. He's saying the trouble with this is that he would have to reduce, actually you'd have to increase the pitch in order to put yourself in a better bird's mouth than that. I'm not quite sure why he couldn't do it really. So all I would say is in this situation, because you've set it out, because it's all been done like that, the best thing to do would be to get yourself some joist hangers, or basically they're clips that they call truss clips, which you would normally use on a truss roof, but it doesn't matter. You can use something along those lines, a jiffy hanger or anything like that, placed around the end of the rafter just where it meets the wall, and then that's strapped down onto the wall itself so that it's held mechanically rather than relying on the cut of the timber to do it. So you can get those. We'll give you a link here, Tico Building Products, which is a company that I use. They're a great British manufacturer of those things. You can get them from people like Simpson Strong Tie, but Tico, you'll get good value for money there. They've got loads of things in their catalogue, and if you just get yourself a few straps there, you will do a belt and braces job and nothing will fall down. It's only a bit of a lean-to, so it looks like it's so well secured. He's got such massive rafters going in there that I don't see any problem, but I don't fully understand why he couldn't have bird's mouthed them in, but what do I know? As I say, Robin was going to answer that question, but Robin is elsewhere. So here's a question from Chris Norman. He sent a nice little graphic in here so we can see exactly what he's up to. He's building a porch and he's using timber frame, and he looks like he's got a nice damp-proof membrane going there. It's going up the wall, being tucked into the damp-proof course, so that's absolutely great. Good insulation on the floor. He's got a bit of insulation going up the side to stop any thermal bridging, so he's really got a belt and braces for a porch. That's fantastic for a porch. There's a lot of people living in houses that could be a lot worse than that, so there's nothing wrong with this. He's saying when it comes to the door, does he take the sole plate, which is basically the bit where the timber frame stud is going to sit on, does he take that across the frame, or has he got to cut that up, put the frame on? Well, what we tend to do is we tend to build timber framework and cut the door out afterwards, just because it's easier to put that sole plate on and then just cut through it. So that's what you would have to do, but what you've got to do is just work out where your finished floor level is and then put your door frame on to coincide with the finished floor level. If you've got a step, you've got some kind of sill on that door frame, so that's going to be 6 inches above the ground probably, out on the outside, and then if you just work the height of that frame out so that your floor comes level with the inside of it, there's a kind of water bar usually across the bottom of it, a kind of a bit of metal strip. So if the floor is just about level there, it means that when the door opens, you've just got enough clearance for that door to open, but when it closes, it's closing against the water bar. So it's a little thing that you could just play around with slightly. In a way, there's no need to put it in until last knockings. In other words, you get everything else sorted out, find out where your floor level is exactly, and then work from there. Because actually, I've just done a job where I got the guys in to put the bifolds in. Big mistake. I shouldn't have done that really, because I gave them a mark and I said I want that absolutely flush with the inside floor level. So there's the mark, and they did it wrong. They made it too big, so it's too low, and so I've had to actually move the lintel up to overcome the problem, because they weren't going to take any responsibility for it. As happens all the time, you know, I could have had a big stand up row and refused to pay, but I'm not quite sure what that would have achieved. So I bit the bullet, lifted the lintel and overcame their mistake. So that's one of the reasons why it's great to do your own projects start to finish and take care of every single detail, because you're not relying on some other monkeys. So yeah, that's the way to go. And it looks, your graphic is fantastic. Everything looks spot on. So here's a question from Connor McLeod. Connor has 2 questions here. One is, he said he's got these funny looking pipes going up to some radiators. This is a house that he's bought and moved into, and so he's inherited this. Looks awful, doesn't it, Connor? You know, this is microbore, and why the radiator is so high with those stupid looking legs going up, like he said, it looks like it's on stilts. I don't know what to say about this really, because if it were me, I would just be ripping it out and rerouting that pipework. I'd either chase the pipework into the wall so that it came up just by the radiator and then I came out with an elbow, or I would lower those radiators on the wall, and probably the easiest thing to do would be to lower the radiators so that you get a nice short, you only need that radiator to be 6 inches off the floor, then you get a convection up behind it. Then you could actually leave that microbore pipework in place, and you can get some sleeves that you put around the pipework, so they look pretty nifty. Once you've got the microbore there, you just get these sleeves, and some of them have got a slit on the back. You can get them from plumbers merchants, and you just pop them round the pipe. You cut them to length and pop them round the pipe, and so actually when you look at the pipework, you see a couple of nice white or even chrome pipes going down to the floor. The other one is the ceiling. He said he's got all these funny dips in the ceiling and all this odd thing where there's been a wall taken out. That looks pretty ugly as well, doesn't it? And it's very often the case when you take a wall out, if you're trying to knock 2 rooms into one, which is a very common thing to do, you take away that wall and then obviously you've got a gap in the ceiling, and a lot of people just try to patch that through with something and plaster it up. And if you're good at it, you can do it. Very often when you look across the room, you do see where that wall was. So my way is to board all the way through from start to finish so that you get a nice clean sweep, new ceiling, and then you just plaster through on that. But it's a little bit more involved, but I think it looks better. But he's also got these funny little dips here. The whole thing looks a bit odd. It seems to me as if somebody's boarded the ceiling and they haven't staggered the boards and they've coincided the boards. Right, so if you've got the joists running this way, you should have your plasterboard running in the opposite direction. That would be the way to do it. So you counter. Your joists are running front to back in your house, so your plasterboard runs across the house and you finish the join to the plasterboard on a joist. You don't ever have it floating. And then when you get the next row, you make sure that join is on the other side so that you're staggering the joint so that you don't finish up with a line going all the way through, because if you do, you find that it cracks. And what's happened there is he's got the cracking, the whole thing is just horrible. And I'd like to say give it all a skim coat of plaster and it was sorted out. But actually you may find that you go to all that trouble and those cracks reappear, because it looks to me as if it's probably only used a 3/8 plasterboard rather than a 1/2 inch one. And the whole thing is, you can actually see where the joists are on this, which is a bit strange. It's almost as if somebody has screwed up and raised the plasterboard slightly. But the whole thing's a mess, mate. I can't offer you any sort of hope there other than to bite the bullet and have a proper job done. It's probably one of those things that's going to cost you £1,000 to have put right, but once you've done it and you can sit there and it doesn't bug you anymore, and when you go to sell the house, you'll get that money back, I'm sure, because it just looks better. The surveyor won't come in and take a sharp intake of breath anyway. So that would be my way. Spend the money, get the job done properly, and hopefully you can all live happily ever after. So we've got a question here from Ken Saunders. Ken is one of our original viewers. He's been with us a long time, so hello Ken. And he says that the guy that's done the patio paving next door, the contractor, has taken out his pipe. It was running into what he and his neighbour had as a joint soakaway. So this is the surface rainwater, and because it was inconvenient for the guy who was laying the patio, he rerouted Ken's pipe into the main drain, and he just assumed that would be alright. So Ken is saying, would it be alright if I just knocked a couple of those bricks out and put my pipe back into the original soakaway? And I'd say yes, it would be, if you can make a tidy job of it and your neighbour doesn't mind. There's no reason why you shouldn't reinstate things to their original. A lot of people probably wouldn't bother. They would probably just go, it's a bit more rainwater into the sewer, you're not supposed to do it, especially with all the flooding going on now. So People do take a dim view of that, but that's what you get. So if you want to, you're going to take up a couple of bricks, make a nice neat incision into the side of that manhole there and pop it in. If you feel you can do that, Ken, then by all means go ahead. Nothing wrong with it.
Hi Skill Builder, I'd be interested to know what you think about this. Got a load of leftover PRI and I've cut it into sections and sort of jammed it in the gaps. Where there's been slight holes, I've filled in with some expandable foam. For the most part of the building, I've done a proper job like that, but I've just got this big bag of leftovers here. And it seems like such a waste to chuck it. So I don't know whether you think that's a total bodge or just a good way of saving the environment. Cheers.
And actually, if there's room to put it into the building, put it into the building, because any insulation is good insulation. So if there's a way of you just putting it in, sometimes I've done it just by putting it in, all the offcuts in, getting a bit of foam, squirting the foam in between the joins and just leaving it as a bit of extra insulation. But anything you can do to cut down on landfill waste and make some use of it. And you know, there ought to be a way of recycling this stuff. There ought to be a way of us just taking it, crunching it all up again and using it as new insulation. But actually the dust on it is horrible. If you build it and you've breathed any of that in when you've been cutting it, it's not nice. So that's probably one reason why people aren't inclined to do any more with it than they have to. But as I say, huge waste, see loads and loads of it lying around, and it would be nice to find something. But I think what he's done there, stuffing it into the nooks and crannies, is about the best you can do, really. But yeah, it's a shame. One day I predict we just get 2 cans of chemical, and we press the button on those chemicals and it will just fill those up with a foam which will set, because the idea of transporting those big 8x4 sheets around in lorries, most of it is fresh air. It's only a chemical that's expanded with air, and it just seems to be a huge waste. It's got to be transported, then it's got to be cut, then it's got to be fitted, and then all that waste has got to be got rid of. So there must be a better way, and whoever invents that better way is going to make themselves millions.